Welcome, everyone. Today, I am so excited, not just because I'm interviewing an expert, but I'm interviewing a friend. My guest is Alex Grabner-Jarlung, but everyone calls him Alex. Alex is one of the sharpest communication coaches that I've ever worked with, and I guess what makes him special is he doesn't just give generic speaking advice. He trains communication like a skill that you can measure, practice, and actually master. And he's part of the David JP Phillips speaking and coaching lineage. And he's helped professional speakers learn how to show up with clarity, confidence, and influence when it really counts. He's also built the Speaking Blueprint, which is a training ground for professionals who want to become more confident and influential communicators, not just on stage, but in meetings and interviews and everyday moments that matter, when the ideas really matter. So, Alex, I am so grateful that you're here, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. Much appreciated. I was extremely happy when the question came, and just, of course, I want to share this with my friend. Of course, it's just going to be, I think we are in for a treat. I don't know what you say, but I think we're in for a treat. The listeners are in for a huge treat. But thank you for that very warm welcome, Jim. Very warm. I don't know if it sees, but I'm blushing here. When somebody calls me an expert, I'm like, stop it. It's just me. It's just me.
Well, you've made such a difference in my life. I mean, it's something that I'm a good speaker, and I started off really good, and you said that, but taking me to that next level took about a year, and you've just been an excellent coach, full of encouragement and also full of helping me understand how people see me and what's the other side of it, and picadillos and little habits and gestures that I'm doing that I'm completely unaware of. And you've really got me to that next level. Even, in fact, I didn't have a desire you always have a desire in the back burner to do the TED Talk, but you got me to that next level to where I gave, I think, an outstanding TED Talk in the audio visual. But, the talk was excellent. And I just felt so confident. And everyone says, you have no nervousness. You're such a great speaker. And you're part of that. You are a part of that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for saying that.
So, Alex, tell me a little bit about yourself. I want to know your story, so that I know it a little bit, but the audience doesn't know it. I want to know a little bit about, how did you get interested in speaking? How did you find David? How did you move from speaking into coaching? And you're very passionate about helping others grow. Tell me a little bit about that journey. So first, let's talk about, how did you get into speaking?
Wow. How did I get into speaking? Well, if I couldn't have seen then in any crystal ball that I was going to enter this phase of being a public speaker and a coach. But it started back in around the 2009-ish, 2008-ish. I was working in the corporate rounds, and I was giving just regular presentations like every Joe and Juliet, right? And one day I was having one of the review calls with my boss, and she goes, Alex, is there anything that you want to develop? And I'm like, you know what, Eva? Maybe becoming a little bit more of how to maybe use PowerPoint, because I thought in my mind that every presentation was based out of one thing. It was the PowerPoint. They need to be awesome, all these animations, and all the pictures and images, and bombarded with too many stuff. But it was something that I felt that, hey, maybe I can become a little bit better at doing that specific thing. And she just went, okay, well, keep your eyes out. If you find anybody that you feel, hey, a course or a person, whatever, and just let me know. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And one day, it was just every other Tuesday, I was sitting there and preparing myself to create another of my beautiful things, a beautiful PowerPoint that I was going to go to a client and I was going to have, because I was in retail, so I had to make people sell our product and our service. So I was creating this beautiful thing. I just put in one of the animations to one of the images. All of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but I had my TV on in the background. I kind of like the background noise when I'm working. And on the TV, I heard this guy it felt like a random thing. He was just like, and I just want to welcome you to How to Avoid Death by PowerPoint. I'm like, wait a minute. This is too good to be true, right? It's one of those too good to be true moments. And I was looking at the PowerPoint. I was looking over there and like, you know what? I'll just procrastinate that for a little while. And I started looking at what he had to say. And how that 35-minute talk literally changed the outcome of everything that I was going to do from that day, I could not foresee at all. So I watched it. I reached out to my boss and I said, you know what? I think I found the guy. And she's like, who's the guy? And I said, his name is David JP Phillips. She's like, David, I never heard of it. He has this cool thing on TV. Let me see if I can find the TV clip. And I didn't find the TV clip. And she goes, okay, well, I need to talk to him. So what happened very, very, very fast was that I Googled his number. I don't think you can reach his number nowadays because of his stardom. But then back in the days, you can Google his number. I found his number. I gave him a call. It was the weirdest call ever because I literally said, he picked up the phone and I was super nervous. And I was so nervous, Jim. So instead of just saying, hi, my name is Alex, I'm calling from this company, I would like to learn about how to become better in PowerPoint. I kind of went, hi, my name is Alex and I would like to be inside of you. And I had built up so much stress over this stupid call. And he was awkwardly quiet on the other side. But just picture yourself getting a call that somebody wants to. It's just. But finally, he said, okay, that's an interesting way of starting a conversation. But I just said, you know what? I'm sorry. I was just nervous to talk to you because you are really somebody who I look up to because I just saw your talk. And that kind of led on the backbone of just, we ordering him to come, or not order him, but we kind of put in a purchase order. Hey, come and speak with us, to us. And he came in and did a 2-day session. And boy, I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed because I had my biggest hopes, Jim, that David would come into our company and just mind blow us on the PowerPoint part. So the day one went by and he never mentioned PowerPoint. And I come up to him afterwards and was like, you know what? When are we talking about PowerPoint? It's a little bit about why I wanted to hired you and I kind of spoke dearly of you coming here. And he goes, yep, it's coming. It's coming. Just hold your horses. I'm like, okay. The next day, half of the day goes by. I'm looking at him. He's like, don't worry. 32 minutes, Jim. That's what he gave me. 32 minutes at the end of day 2 of PowerPoint. So I was very upset. But then he told me that, Alex, you have to figure this one thing out. And that is, it's not about that thing that you want right now, the PowerPoint, because it's not the presentation. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, for the last 2 days, I've worked on you. You have worked on you. And you see how good that you are now when speaking? That one is just a tool. When you're saying it, oh, that's right. So I think that he truly sparked back in 2009 that this was something that I could maybe not do as a lifestyle and a job, but this was something I could become better in. Fast forward 4 years, I kept in touch with David over and over and over again. And just reaching out to do you have a new course? Do you have a new course? Do you have a new course? He was, now after I've been working with him for so many years, he told me the truth one day. And he said, Alex, you know what? One time when you reached out and you were asking me, what is the latest? I need another course. He had nothing, Jim. He had nothing. He created a course for us just because he wanted to give even more value. So fast forward the 4 years, it turned out to be a blessing from somewhere because there was a lot of turbulent things going on in my life at that moment. I was separating. My mom had just passed away in pancreatic cancer, way too young. And I was bored at work. I was bored at doing the same sales pitch over and over again. And we just ran across each other on a tiny little airport in the south of Sweden. And he looks at me, he goes, hey, Alex. I'm like, man, hey, David. He's like, how are you doing? When he asked me that question, how are you doing? You sometimes come at a crossroads. Either you share everything or you're just saying, yeah, everything is pretty okay. And I didn't go with everything is pretty okay. I went with sharing everything. And after that conversation, he just looked and said, you know what? Then the time is right. If you're ready for this, I'm going to make you an offer. And he made me the offer of helping and coming and starting working together with him. And that was one of those once in a lifetime offers. And I was just fully engaged in that. So that is how I became a public speaker. Just by pure luck and a little bit of passion and a little bit of love to PowerPoint.
Well, that's great. Now, can you, the audience might not know who David JP Phillips is. Can you tell them a little bit about David and kind of his background a little bit and why this is such a cool thing?
Okay, yeah, of course, because when you're in it, you don't know everything, but when you're not, you don't. That's true. Well, I do apologize for that. So David JP Phillips is a gentleman who spent the majority of his grown adulthood of just figuring out how communication works. Not just by, I think it's he's going into the depth of it, of the biochemistry, the neurology, the psychology and biology behind you as a human being when you communicate. And when maybe you and we bench watch something, a TV series, he bench reads the like new science, the scientific stuff that comes out, the new what do you call them? The new studies that have been shown, the new findings that have been launched. So that is what he does, and then he puts it in a format. I think that what he has really truly mastered is to put very complex things into very easily digestible things for normal people like you and I, and for you who's listening in as well. So he makes communication very simple and very easy to learn and to practice. So that is David JP Phillips, and he has a bunch of really good TED Talks out there. How to Avoid Death by PowerPoint, the magical science behind storytelling, something called 110 Steps of Excellent Communication, and also how you set your mind right when prior to presenting something. So it's he's a superstar within the communicational rounds. That's who David is.
Yeah, when I met David, the first time was watching one of his TED Talks, The Magical Science of Storytelling. And I was working on the documentary that we were talking about, and I was like, okay, there's a science to storytelling. And I just loved that and fell in love with it. I signed up for his newsletter, got a couple invites, and then the materials that he was putting out were just so incredible. They were so head and shoulders above anything else. And I'm a guy who reads probably 100 books a year. And, I've been with some really great people who know their stuff. And you can always tell a person who's regurgitating kind of the message or the things that are out there, this is what it said, and I'm just repeating the same thing over and over again. And then you find these originals. I would call David more like the Wright brothers of speaking, the guy who went out and just kind of figured it out versus, went with the academics and the experts. And the knowledge and the stuff that he has just been incredible. And you've been involved with him and creating some of this stuff and being on a lot of these podcasts and a lot of this social media content that has millions and millions of views. And it's just been fascinating for me to see that this caliber of a program actually does exist. Now, let me ask you, I want to kind of go into you as a speaker. When you started and getting to that next level and working with David, what was something that you struggled with most early on?
That is such an amazing question, Jim. What I struggled with was perfection and performance. That was what I was struggling with. Perfection and performance, because I didn't want to let him down. You see, he gave me this beautiful opportunity to come and work with him as he's becoming a rising star. And I wanted to make everything perfect. The way that I was communicating his knowledge, his message to others, how could I convey it? I didn't want to put my own stamp on it in the beginning because I needed to learn everything. Remember, I was an average Joe. I barely have a high school degree. I have no whatsoever scientific background. I was selling phones. And then all of a sudden, I need to learn, how does the brain work? How does communication work? What is the psychological aspects of? How is the psychological structure of things? Does memory work in another human being? So I need to be, I felt like I had to be perfect when it came to this. I was trying so much for perfection. That meant that I was performing. Really, felt like there was prestige to it, that I had to really be on the same level. But at the same time, I just started out. So that was one of those things that I really struggled with. just the performance part of this. It was very hard. It was very frustrating. A lot of anger management had to go in there after learning the 2-day full course of presentation skills that we had. That was the first thing that was really, that sticks out still.
So what changed? I guess what changed first for you? Was it confidence? Was it structure? Was it voice? Was it presence? What was the first thing that you noticed changing?
Well, I come from a background where I've been very vulnerable when I was a kid. But I think I put on a very good facade. I
Mhm.
was the theater monkey inside of the classroom. I was the clown. I was the one that people expected to, either crack a joke or just be fun on behalf of myself. Did a lot of, not a lot, but I did some stage work. I was one
Mhm.
of the dwarfs in the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs back in the day, and I was really big guy, so I was kind of not making sense of it's not dwarf, but more little people. It was really, yeah. So I think that the confidence was hidden because I was pushed away from early childhood. I think when starting to become this, I my confidence level was kind of quickly there. But then what really happened was that I kind of became overconfident, because when you strive for perfection and you think about performance, Jim, in my world, that became that when I felt that I managed it, I remembered everything that I wanted to say. I was really good at performing this. My ego kind of wrote checks that my body couldn't cash. So I became a little bit too good for my own good, if so to say. So that changed, that I became overconfident. And then at the same time, I lost a bunch I became going from big to small, that even increased my confidence level. So I had a bit of a struggle, to be honest with you, even with the confidence. And all the people say when you learn how to become a good public speaker, you probably kind of get a little bit more ego building and also your confidence. So that was one of the changes that really took an uprise. But the second I realized that that was not in balance, I kind of hit the deck really hard. And that was a good thing. And that was the moment, Jim, when I realized that I am not the main person. I will never be the main person.
Hmm.
I'm not the main person because you are the main person. I am the one that will help you, guide you, make you the greatest that you can be. That is my assignment. That is my thing. So when I realized, when I became a public speaker, Jim, was that I was not destined to stand on the biggest stages and give the knowledge to everyone. My work was to give individuals the tools that they need so they can flourish. That was the thing that I realized. So that was the biggest, becoming a public speaker, was that I was not going to be the star of this. I was going to be the one who helped other people become the star instead.
That's interesting. You've got on professional football teams, the coach can't be the player, but the player won't reach
Mm,
those heights without the coach. And so I think
yeah.
that's an interesting perspective. When you think about coaching or working with David, what do you think is most different about David's approach and your approach than some of the approaches that are out there today? Let me clarify the question. So if you are looking at a speaking course that's out there, a university's putting one on, somebody's putting, there's so many different things. I've been in Toastmasters, I've been in the National Speakers Association, I've been at different groups where somebody's going to come and teach me how to be a better speaker. What is your uniqueness? Why are you guys
You
different?
mean that the little unicorn that we have?
Yeah, your unique differentiator.
I would say the science behind it.
Okay.
It's the underline of everything that we do. It's the science behind it. It's not a guessing game. It's not experience wise. It's the science behind how you work as a human being. The
Mm.
brain, the functionality behind it, the receptors of when you're using your body language and not using your body language. These comparisons, they're science based. And that is what brings us out there, in combination with making it as simple as anyone can understand it.
Well,
So
I think that's really interesting because there's the science of all of the brain chemicals, the neuropeptides, the neurotransmitters, all of that is going on in the speaker. and then what the speaker is trying to convey in the audience. Can you talk a little bit about that? Let's start with nervousness. Number one, you're talking about a nervous speaker. How do you coach a speaker before they get on stage to calm their nerves so that they're not flooded with that chemical of cortisol and norepinephrine and all of those things that make them lock up? How would you coach somebody like that?
Well, the worst way we can do it is when we use the old 80s and the 70s. Well, you just walk up on stage, and when you look at the audience, just picture that they don't have any clothes on. That is literally not what we're doing. That, I'm sorry, it's doesn't work. I don't even know where that comes from, Jim. I think that was something to like neutralize that they're just normal human beings. But
I can
anyway,
tell you where it comes from. I tell you where it comes from. It came from Carol Burnett in an interview. She was an old TV star, and
yeah.
she said she just pictured everyone in their underwear. It was very funny, and it was something that somebody asked her, but I think that's where it came from.
Yeah, my dad used to tell me this. Oh, whenever you're nervous, my son, so bit to just look into, like, they think that they don't have any clothes on, and then everything is fine. He's from Austria, so it was kind of very square. But anyway, so when it comes to finding that feng shui spot of how to calm yourself in that state, we make sure that how can we boost the opposites of the things that creates the stress. So how can we increase your oxytocin levels? Because they can't be on the same level. Oxytocin is one of the best things there is in life if you ever want to feel that you're present and that you're in the spotlight. So it can come from everything to watch. Like I have, this is my favorite one to take a look at, my go-to guy, and that is Bosse, my Australian Shepherd pup. He is the one that creates my oxytocin. Before it was my wife. She's out of the picture. She's not out of the picture. She's just out of my phone as a picture. But that is one of the easiest and simplest way. And then we'll look into, okay, what does science say about breathing patterns? Well, we know this for a fact that if you implement breathing patterns to calm yourself down, that means that your heart is going to be having a slower rate. When the heart is in a slower rate, automatically you'll be more calm, and the length and level towards you going into stress is going to be longer. And then, of course, also making sure that you find the energy, you find the passion, you find the testosterone that makes you more risk-taking. And in this case, we look into what music has done and scientifically how that can affect you and implement the better substances of testosterone, serotonin, a little bit of dopamine in there as well. So it's really counter-measuring whatever you have too much of. We kind of balance it out, neutralize it, and then push the other ones that makes you feel good, that makes you feel present, that makes you very structured when you're standing there. So you're owning the place, Jim. And you have these tools. I've shared them several times with you. So you have them. But the audience can now also benefit from it, of course. But that would be the thing that, when we can put something saying that if you do this, it's not just because it works, but it's because of these things that happen within you. And that's something that we have over and over gotten back as feedback. It's so cool because you can put the word and you put the needle on exactly what happens inside of my head. And when I understand this, there's a bigger acceptance for me to try this out, because there's so many of there, unfortunately, that just gets advice, like I said, with picture people not having any clothes on. We need a reason why. We need to figure out, why does this work for me? Then you have the dare to use it the next time you have the fear of speaking or having the nervousness.
Yeah, I think you guys have done such an excellent job of giving that 5-minute, 15-minute before you get on stage, how to do the mindset, how to get those brain chemicals working powerfully. And I can't encourage you, I've flown over to Europe and been with you guys and gone through the exercises and spent a lot of times on the videos, and we've had so many Zoom calls. That makes a really, really big difference when you get up on stage, and how to just really knock it out of the park. And I was pretty good at it before, but now it's just that next level. And I think that if somebody wants to overcome those nervousness, it's worth spending a little bit of time with you as a coach to help somebody get over that. And it's such a game changer in doing that. So I think that's so, so important, getting that mindset before you get on stage. And I think you're so gifted at training people that. Now,
Thank you.
let me ask you something. Is there anything that you learned from David that just completely changed how you communicate and how you teach others? What was a big aha moment for you?
that you fully commit yourself.
Okay.
And I don't think he knows what he did to me back there. We're talking back in 2009, not when I started working with this back in 2013, but we're talking 2009. So what he did was that when he showed me the door, he kind of gave me the key, and I had to put myself inside of that. I realized that the full commitment, he literally changed everything that I did from the communicational perspective. That meant that filler sounds, one of the classical, well, people have probably heard this over and over again, but I can say that the filler sounds with the biggest impact, without a doubt, he did it, because he said filler sounds do these and this and this and this, that. And that means that it takes down the value, takes down credibility, and people start focusing on something else. And I went, I can't do this, because I was working in sales. I needed to make people understand that, hey, whatever I said had good credibility. They need to trust me. So I spent focus weeks and weeks and months. Weeks turned into 6 months, Jim. 6 months. I'm not a bright kid. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. I'm not a bright kid back then. Still not. But that was one of those, I just need to get it out there. So that was one of the things that I think that he didn't realize, that when he told me something, I valued his knowledge, his spoken word so much. So I was almost obsessed with learning this, because I felt that if this is the way, this needs to be the way I communicate. And then it turned out that when I was starting working with him, I figured that I needed to live the way that I learned. That means that I cannot have filler sounds if I'm educating someone else and avoiding filler sounds. I cannot have a locked body language if I'm educating people of having open body language. And I cannot have not functional gestures if I'm educating people using functional gestures. So that was one of those things. His word really became something that I was obsessed, is having a bad tone to it, but I was extremely focused of managing. And I still to this day don't think that he understands and knows the level of impact that he made on my life regarding to this. Some say that I met my wife due to David. I think I'm not going to, I don't know if I'm going to give it Jim. I don't know. Do you want me to give it to him? But maybe that is the truth, that I met Katarina due to him. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, let me ask you this for our audience. Why does communication matter so much? Why is this such a critical life skill that people need to master?
Because you do it every single day. 365. From the day you start breathing to the day you don't, you communicate in one way or another. And some might not agree. Maybe I live out in the forest. I speak to no one. Well, you speak to yourself. So why not optimize yourself, and why don't optimize your own communication and then externalize that to someone else that you speak to? And I know that David mentions this, and I kind of is aligned with him with the injustice there is, that some people have better settings to learn how to communicate and then other people don't. And I think also that is one of those things that you can even out the playing field when you know how to speak. I wish, Jim, honest to whatever we believe in, is that I wish that I had these skills when I was a youngster. I wish when people were bullying me that I could have the opportunity and just knowing how to say something back, or just grasp whatever they said and just turn it around into the best comeback ever and just hit them back in their face. But I didn't. Instead, I just had to be quiet, and I turned to the thing that many people do, and I was just laughing. So that was my protection. I laughed when they were beating me up and they were calling me names. I laughed, and they felt that, hey, he's laughing. He thinks it's funny. Let's keep on doing it. So I think, for people who are in a position that are out there, then learning how to communicate will definitely help them, hopefully faster than it helped me.
Well, I like how you talked about learning how to communicate to yourself, because that's a challenge. People don't know how to talk to themselves. Their self-talk is often creating a brain chemistry that you don't want. And that better self-talk is something that I think that you need to learn how to talk to yourself first. I think that's really, really important. Let me ask you this. When you get somebody that you're working with and they start becoming a strong communicator, how does that change them?
Become a strong communicator. Either they go the journey that I did, they become extremely ego-driven, and like, yeah, I'm just so good. Look how I'm changing things. But I say that they're one out of maybe a 50 the rest of the 49 just become extremely humble. I love the way, because they become extremely humble of, they have had challenges before. Maybe it is speaking up at work when they are, having their conversation with their boss of the yearly, increase of raise, whatever it is, or working, having preparation. I've helped so many people with preparing them for an interview, and then they come back and be like, Alex, I freaking nailed it. I got the job. And they're so humble and they're so grateful. I think truly that is the thing that has come back mostly, the gratefulness and the humbleness of, but with a little question mark, there's also that frustration. Why did I not do this sooner?
Yeah.
Why did it? So they kind of regret, why didn't I invest in either coaching with me or coaching with David or, coursework? Why didn't I do this before? I've had people, one of those that really stuck to me, it was a gentleman, he was 67 years old. He was supposed to retire, and he had been working with this company, a tech company, for like we were talking the early days of computer. We started off this training. It was over a long period of time. It was going to be lasting for almost 6 months. But after just 2 sessions, he goes, Alex, this is one of those things I regret. I'm like, what do you mean? I am 67 years old. I'm soon to kick the bucket from going into retirement and saying bye-bye to work. And why didn't I just learn this a little bit earlier? So he was both grateful, humble, but there was also a little bit of frustration to him. Just why didn't I do this before? So
yeah, a little bit of regret. I get that.
Yep.
I think that communication is so very important, and a lot of people think that they are much better at it than they actually are. And a lot of times I'll see communication breaking down with people, because when they think about communications, it's not just a transmittal and a receival of information. So this person has an intent, and they think their intent is powerful enough for that other person to receive it, but they don't understand what it's like to be on the other side of them. So there's a lot of times where communication breaks down in leaders or teams or in relationships. Is there any one factor or thing that you see where communication typically breaks down?
Of course, I have to say one thing, cultural aspects.
Okay.
It depends on what culture you are referring to and looking into. In Scandinavia, we are very much not working out of a hierarchy perspective.
Okay.
We're always trying to see leadership as more like a flat one where everybody's helping out each other. Of course, there's workplaces where it's not like that. Compared to other countries that were continents that we've been working with, where hierarchy is extremely top to bottom. And I think that when it breaks down is when you trigger fear. In many cases, where you trigger fear of, and I mean more like management by fear, or it can even be in relationship, and that is like managing relationship by fear. That fear is one of those triggers that really breaks the communication, because a person who is then facing that is probably going to go into fight, flight, and freeze mode. Then that means that then the communication is just going to be honing back of, it's going to defend itself by using the words, trying, blame. A lot of pain points are going to come out when the other one is just the aggressor. So that is when I think, from my experience looking into it, that's where the communication most of the time has broken down when it comes to in communicating with other people. From your own communication aspect, where it breaks down is truly doubt. I think it's doubt, and that's again cultural. I mean, I've lived in the US and I saw how that was, and how you guys are so much more confident than, for instance, people from Sweden, Scandinavia. Germany and Austria, more assertive, more square, kind of goes into that framework that they have been brought up in. But in Sweden, which I work most of the times now in Scandinavia, is doubt. They're self-doubting. It's just that is where communication breaks down. And we have so many that are just not enjoying speaking publicly at all. They'd rather be quiet. And if somebody knocks on the door, they'd rather just go like, I'm just going to go to the room that nobody's in and just going to shut it down and kind of go to pretend that nobody's at the door. So I think that It depends, Jim. Cultural aspects where the communication breaks down. At least from my experience working across the globe, almost across all the globes and the continents that we have. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I want to dig a little deeper into that fear where that cortisol spikes in the brain. I'll give you a little story. I many years ago had a boss and he was working on a major project. This was millions and millions and millions of dollars, $35 million project. And I'm working 7 in the morning till 9 at night. I'm on a lot of meetings. I'm in a lot of meetings. I'm doing a lot of communication. I'm stressed out. And I'm a pretty good presenter at that time. Not as good as I am now, not after all the coaching that I've had. But what happened was he had this expectation in the meeting that he threw me into that I was going to perform at this top level. And I'm just thrown into this meeting. And his expectation was, Jim, you just fix it and just, handle all this stuff. And then what happened was in the meeting, I'm completely lost. My brain is still in the last meeting that I had, and I've got another one after this that I'm in. And all of a sudden, he starts firing questions.
Mm.
What about this? What about this? And it was an insecurity of his because he has control issues. And he's a brilliant, brilliant guy out in Silicon Valley, genius in a lot of areas. But all of a sudden, I'm in this situation where he's ripped out the control. He got everyone off the teleconference call. Then he started laying into me and he started saying, you remember this meeting 2 weeks ago and all this other stuff. And all of a sudden, my brain has blanked. There's nothing there. I don't remember this meeting. And now I'm starting to get worried about myself because he's like, you were there. You were in the meeting. This is what you said. And I don't remember any of this. And I talked to my stepfather, who's a physician, and he says, you have what's called a fight, flight, or freeze response. And you're going into the freeze response. He says, your prefrontal cortex is flooded with cortisol and your memory absolutely stops. And he gave me an example when he was in med school, going through his residency. He says, I was in my brother's wedding. I know I was in it because I'm in the pictures. But he says, at that time in my residency, I had no recollection. I can't remember being there. I don't remember it. I was in so much stress. And I think that in communication, if you don't understand how you bring out stress in other people, it is a big, big problem. It's costing you relationships. People are not listening to what you're saying. And so that cortisol, when somebody goes up on stage and they all of a sudden have this nervousness about them when they're on stage and they lock up and they freeze and they don't know where they are. That's something that a lot of speakers will have. Have you ever had to coach somebody on how to get over that?
I just did it the other day. Yes, I think it's one of those top 10 things that you have to, as at least what I do, is to help them overcome that. Just I give them the toolbox of how to manage that cortisol fight. Now I got stumbled upon it.
Fight, or freeze.
Fight or freeze. Exactly. I said it before without any, but now when you stumble, I'm like, I'm going to do a copy of that one. That's at least what my brain said. No, but I truly believe that is, if you know what you need to look for, what happens when you start going into this, or both having irrational movements, walking and pacing around the stage, maybe swaying, stroking and fidgeting with yourself, with your hands, if you have jewelry on. If you see this, then you got a telltale sign that person is already in that fight, freeze, or fight mode. But yeah, so the answer is yes. Have I done this? Just a couple of days ago, I had to help someone to just overcome this, and turned out to be fine, turned out to be great. As long as you have the tools for it, then there's something that you can do about it, even if it's something that is prehistoric, the response that we have, the instincts that we have. But we can manage them if we just know what tools needs to be implemented, of course. But yeah.
I think that's absolutely correct. You've
But
got
they
to.
suck. They suck tremendously, Jim, when you face them. Not only on a stage, but when you're in a relationship, for instance, or when you're standing and doing something at work. Just to give you another, for the listeners to exemplify it. If you've ever had an argument with somebody that you love and they say something really good towards you, maybe they're criticizing that you didn't do the dishes or you never do this or you never do that, and your brain is just going blank, that is cortisol, because you have no idea what you're going to answer. And you know perfectly well as I do, you never come up with the best answer until you left the situation, you're driving away, you're walking away, you're out with the dog. That's when you go, why didn't I say this? That's it. That's your brain functioning again. But yeah, I agree with you. It sucks. It is not good to have that.
Yeah, it becomes challenging, but it's something that we're all going to have because we're going to come up and deal with somebody who is going to ask those questions repeatedly or have these challenges, and we've got to learn how to master that. And that's something that I think coaching has helped me tremendously with. I'd like to talk a little bit about the coaching, kind of go into a little bit about my experience in it.
Yeah.
And for
How
context,
was it?
give the audience a little bit of perspective. So I went through the Presenter Mastery program, and I started that probably a couple years ago. And one of the first things that I had to do was I had to record myself talking about anything on video and 10 minutes, and then I had to send that to you. And one of the things that you did is you watched it and you watched it again, and you watched it again, and you watched it again, and watched it again, and watched it again. And then we had a meeting and you went through and dissected it like I've never seen dissected before. I've had people say, change this, change that, but we went into depth. You went into my posture, my voice inflectuation, my lack of pauses, my nervousness areas, what I was doing with my hands. And even though I didn't have a lot of nervousness, you said your nervousness is fine. There was a posture that I had that was kind of a protective posture that it made me look more like I'm holding something back or like I'm protecting myself, and the audience, how they would pick up on that. The other thing that you said that I thought was very fascinating is, Jim, you're articulating really well. You're making some great points, but you've got to have a longer pause because my brain needs to catch up with where you are. And so when I got done with that, I hit about 46 and a half. And you said, starting off, that's a very, very high bar for, and you're measuring 110 skills. Felt pretty good about that, understanding, I have a long way to go. And then when I finished my graduation, I gave you my TED Talk. And you went through the TED Talk and you said, wow, what a difference. I had gone all the way up to an 80. And an 80 is a keynote speaker who's making $30,000 to $50,000 a year. Those are really top keynote speakers. And so I felt really good about the 80. But you said something else to me that I thought was very interesting. You said, Jim, you should be at 85. You're excellent. You should be at 85. It's so polished. It's so perfect that you need to throw in a couple things to where you're not so robotic. So that's my perspective on this. Tell me what you were thinking when you were going through and looking at me before and after.
Well, one thing that you have to fully understand is that what you're referring to is a system that David developed over studying 5,000 speakers over 7 years to identify and dissect humanity's communication. And that means that we have 110 different core skills, everything from nervousness, your voice, body language, facial expression, language you choose to use, and then we have something that we call the ultimate levels. I dehumanize everybody who I do the analysis upon because I need to be very objective. So I remember our first conversation. I remember the last one as well. When I do these analyses, it's really me going into the zone. You do not disturb me. You do not knock on the door. I have to watch something first one time so I don't get accidentally a laughter in there, because if I get endorphins inside of my bloodstream, I automatically become a little more biased towards being less critical towards what it is that you're doing. You see, that type of nerdiness. So that little brainchild that David developed, I kind of somewhere adopted and I really honed in on. So when I do the analysis, I dehumanize the person and really look into the skill sets, and then I turn it on to switch it on, because if I would give you the feedback, it would be very harsh, and that is not the way that we grow. That would be me talking about communication with leadership and management by fear, giving feedback by fear. No, so I remember doing the first one, and I remember doing the second one, and just seeing, when you put somebody in a situation when they fully understand, and it kind of goes back to what we started the conversation with, Jim, is that when you're giving them the background to it, the understanding of this is what you need to do, this is how you do it, and this is why you need to implement it, this is what's going to happen. You really embody that when you went from your 46 to the 80 points. And when I say 85, that is because neither me, neither you, neither David, even if he's one of the best one out there when it comes to skill-based presentations and deliveries, we should never lean back and become fat and happy. Never. We need to thrive always higher, higher, higher. So me saying that, I was looking at that, and I love it when it becomes that, what is the imperfection that I need to help him with? What is it, that little thing? He's too perfect. I know it sounds good now. I'm giving you a little bit of ego boost there, but he's too perfect. People don't like perfect. So when I was thinking, what can I give Jim? Well, he needs to put back some of the faultiness, because now we have built everything else up. Now we can put back some of the things that makes people see, hey, that's Jim. That's Jim, the human being, not Jim, the robot that is excellent in communicating. So that was, it was, I don't know if I answered your question there, but that was what's going through my mind and how I do the process of looking at it, that I need to dehumanize the person to be able to find the skills. And then from there, put on the human part of it again, and then give it to somebody else.
Well, I think that's a skill in and of itself, is to go through and give somebody a critique on that many areas and to measure them against 110 different things, from facial expressions to nervousness to voice to tonality to speeding up to slowing down to changing your voice, all of those things that you don't even think about that helps you tremendously. But I don't have that skill set like you and David do to really go through and look at all the details. I get sucked into the story. I'm like, oh, this is great, and so I had to learn. You guys also helped me learn how to be a more effective, discerning person when it comes to my own talks and when it comes to the talks of others. And I think that's a skill set that you guys have that I'm still mastering. I want to talk a little bit about this new thing called the Speaking Blueprint, and there's another one, the X Speaker, or what else?
The Speaker X.
Speaker X. So let's talk about the Speaking Blueprint first, because I want people to get involved with this. I think this is the best value on the market for upping your game in communication, and then if you want to go to that next level, Speaker X. So let's talk about, what is this Speaker Blueprint and how do people...
How do people find it? I'm sorry, I put the words inside of your mouth there. I thought you were done, but even my son has some spots. I'm sorry, Jim. The Speaking Blueprint is, I would say it's the next thing from what you went through in the Presenter Mastery. So Presenter Mastery was really, we gathered everything that we had done over 25, 35 years with my experience added on to David's experience. But we realized somewhere that, all right, that has been great. What is the next thing? How can we reach more people? Because that was a very high-end product that we launched and service. So we launched the Speaking Blueprint, where we gathered everything from the Presenter Mastery, all the coursework, and even added some more. But then we said, how can we reach this to more people? So we found a community base, a platform that really can handle all of this that we are expecting. So it is a community-driven course or platform, which is you can find on school.com/speak. And what we do there is that we give people a fast forward. It's like going to the gym, right? So when you buy a gym membership, there's a couple of choices, right, Jim? At the new year coming 2026, I know how I was looking at that. Like, I need to get a little bit more fit. more beach 2026 friendly. But it's the same thing with the blueprint. So you go there, and it's a monthly subscription, just like your gym card. But what we have said is that we want to give the value on the first month, like, so you can go from here to here. So we're having this fast track where it's 30-day to speak with confidence. That means that whatever level you're at, you're going to come in and you're going to have micro tasks every single day, and you become accountable because you need to record them, you need to upload them into the community, and you get feedback from myself or one of the other coaches, or also the community itself. We're very encouraging to push people out there, really like in the deep end of the puddle, so you understand how it will be within the next 30 days that you are going from this level, and you're going to then be speaking with a lot of more confidence. And we can already now see the people who are doing their testimonials or the first day video, and then 30 days later, the difference, Jim, is just, I love it because it's a totally different person, but it's still the same persona behind it. So it's great. And then there's on the just a regular tier in the Speaking Blueprint, we're offering people a monthly call. They can ask me any questions that they want to on a live call, but we're also amping it up. So we're giving them something called the Speaking Blueprint Plus, where people have an opportunity to go in and get weekly calls with me instead. That we really go, and you recognize this, where we go into how to practice your content, how to create the content. What is the psychological 7 steps that you need to do to get your presentation to have people engaged in it from the get-go, to delivery practices where we practice the 110 steps like you were mentioning, and I was mentioning with the functional, with not the functional gesture, but the filler sounds, and you were mentioning with the pausations. So it is that next level. And what we have really on the higher level found that has been so giving people so much back was what you flew across the puddle, the Atlantic Ocean, to be a part of. And that is the meetups, where we physically go in one day. Everybody's welcome. We're going to do it in different locations in Europe. We're starting off with, where people get to meet each other. They get to work on their stuff. So it's a pretty much the next level from what you were knowing from the presenter mastery, and that's going into the blueprint. So if you are a person who wants to become more confident when you're speaking, that blueprint is going to give you the key success forwards into that. And then you were also asked, sorry, I was pressing on.
No, this is really good. And one of the things I want to make a point here, that this material that I was going through, this is the same material, the same videos of David. Now, I paid thousands of dollars for this, and I felt like I was getting a great deal because of the caliber of this information. So if you've ever seen Masterclass, it's kind of like a cheap YouTube video compared to some of the stuff that David's doing. So, I mean, it's really good. It is on that next level. That's how it hit me. And so what's crazy to me is you guys are offering this for $100 a month.
The basic level is $99 a month, and the tier, the plus tier, is $249 a month. That includes the monthly calls and also, or the weekly calls, not the monthly, but the weekly calls, and also the gathering each quarter. We're doing one gathering. So, but I have to stress this, Jim. Even if you paid thousands and thousands of dollars for this, it's thanks to you that we're now being able to do this, because one core value that both myself and David have always, we've been thriving for this over and over in a year for years, almost decades, is to be able to give communication to as many people as we can that either is affordable or for free. So what you set off in the presenter mastery has really given us the opportunity of doing this now. So it's thanks to you and the other ones who were participating in the presenter mastery that led us to this way. So I have to say thank you for that. And all the people are joining in is probably thanking you guys as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I got more out of it than you guys. So I really love that. The next level, somebody wanting to become a professional speaker, the speaker kit, and going to that next level, it's called Speaker-X. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes. Well, this is one of those that I'm extremely proud over, because it's something that I have founded together with another colleague of mine inside of the David JP Phillips organization, which is not David. But we said, you know what? if people want to become public speakers, we have the recipe, we have the know-how, we have the guy who had pretty much put public speaking on the map. Why don't we just offer this opportunity to other people to become public speaker? Because it is literally, you know this, Jim, as much as I do, it is one of the best jobs / passions that you can work with in the entire globe. It is so much fun. So we said, okay, cool. We launched Speaker X. We're giving a 6-week boot camp where we give people their full attention from day 1 to day final after 6 weeks, where we give you the opportunity to structure your content, to find your content, to say what I like to call it the unicorn effect, to find something in your topic that makes it rememberable, doing it in a different way that nobody else has ever done it within your topic and your genre. So that is what we're creating over those 6 weeks. And then on the 6th week, we are now giving people the opportunity to stand on a stage, live audience, recorded professionally, getting the full speaker kit. So you have a video that you can give to speaker agencies to say, hey, this is me. Look at what I've done. And we're giving people that little, I wouldn't say a fast track, but we were giving them the foundation that they deserve so they can become a public speaker with quality and with the opportunity of being invited by speaker agencies to be able to promote them out to companies so they can make some money, and also the most important thing, spread their message that they have thought of. So Speaker X is the next level, and we're offering that now. We have filled the first one, are almost filling up. Yeah, we still have some small spots for the second one that goes in May. So now the first one is going to be launched in the beginning of March, but the day itself is going to be on the 25th of February, this upcoming month. And then we have the second one going. So there's people can still apply for it, but then they have to reach out to me, and we'll schedule a call, because we're very not picky, but we want to interview people. So before we have them sign up to this.
I think that's really important. That's one of the things on the presenter mastery program that was a key point for me, is that not everyone got in. There was kind of an interview process, because there are a lot of people that I'll go to with like an NSA meeting, a local NSA meeting. And I'm thinking, one guy that I remember very, very well, short, couldn't talk, extremely shy. He was round as he was tall, and making conversation with them, I said, "Oh, what's your topic? What do you speak on?" And he hawed, and he says, "Well, I speak on weight loss and fitness." And I'm like, I don't know if this is a good fit for you. I appreciate his candor and everything else, but when you have a whole bunch of professional top-notch speakers and then you throw that in there, it kind of kills the vibe of the culture of the group that you're putting together. So I really appreciate you have, it's a little bit exclusive as far as getting those people together. And that made more attractive to you.
I mean, that's good. It's not like we're closing any doors. It's just that we want to be having a little bit of a vetting process, because if you are not, even if you want to become a public speaker, there's still some levels that you have to be, because it's, like I said, it is a fast track. It is 6 weeks boot camping it. The entire, every single in. I think not more about the topic that we're looking into. It's more of, can you afford the things that we're asking for? A dedication, opportunity, and time. You need to dedicate yourself. You need to take the opportunity, seize it, and then you need to spend time on this every single day. That is what the requirements are to be able to come in and then invest in that program.
I think that's important. It's frustrating when somebody comes on and is like, I paid the money, I'm not better yet, and it's like, look,
yeah,
I can, if you don't practice the guitar, you ain't gonna get good,
Exactly that. Exactly. Yeah. No, so that is a creation that I'm extremely proud over. And when we were telling David about that, we're going to launch this, he's like, you know what? I'm so happy for you guys that you're doing this. Of course, he's supporting everything within this. We're giving material that is, of course, David's as well. So we're giving videos so they can understand the structure behind how to really make it the best one. But due to my time in the TEDx sphere, and also you working with the UN refugee program and the program that they have, they call the Pass the Mic, where they give refugees the opportunity to speak their story, I look at going into this with, how can I now help that person the most to get their message out there, their idea, their thought, whatever they came up with, and how can we make a really big impact? Because I can tell you now, some of the things that are coming down on the 25th of this February, Jim, it can literally revolutionize workspaces, companies. It's just mind-blowingly great. And this has been by people that have gone through working in the industries for 40, 45 years, some of them. It's just, I'm super excited for this. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, so if you haven't checked it out, look at Speaker X and look at the videos that are coming out after the 25th of February. They're going to be great. And maybe next time you can be a part of it as well. Who knows?
Well, anything that I can do to help you guys out, I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there. So
Absolutely. I like that.
Alex, I really
Yes.
appreciate you. I appreciate
Thank
you. I appreciate all of the help that you've given me. I appreciate what you're doing. I think that you're onto something, and I just hope that you hit this out of the park, take it to the next level, and really I get to hear some stories of other people who got to work with the famous Alex.
Oh, the famous. I'm just the guy behind the boy or woman or man or
Mhm.
girl who makes that story come to life. So I'm just a person next to them. That's all. But thank you so much for seeing me as who I am and what I am as well. I appreciate you as well, Jim, for those kind words, and thank you for having me on this one. This was so much fun, so much exciting. I'm still jealous over that you have some sun over there and I don't in this snowily half gray countryside in Sweden.
Well, just wait, it'll change. So, well,
Hopefully.
thanks again for being on the podcast. And until next time, this is Jim and Alex signing off from Speaking with Authority.
Arrivederci.